welcome to UK Property Works, probate video number 1, the one where we introduce the concept of probate. Introduction to probate. Probate is not a term that people hear often. Unfortunately, the first time we hear it tends to be at a difficult time, usually when someone may have had something bad happen to them. The simple definition for probate is proving of the will. It is taking the will that somebody had produced while they were still alive and making sure that what they said in the will is exactly what their intentions were before they passed away. Probate is also the legal framework which solicitors work to in order to distribute the assets within an estate according to what has been written within the will. All of this information will be laid out clearly and in full within the will. Essentially, probate does two things. Number 1, it proves the will, and number 2, it distributes the assets according to the will itself. Assets found within an estate generally include everything that has been gathered within the lifetime of the person that has passed away, which can include property, money, premium bonds, shares, jewellery, cars, basically anything that can be accumulated through a person's lifetime. The executors are, or is, the appointed person or people who have the responsibility for distributing the assets in accordance to the will. In a nutshell, probate can be defined as the distribution of the assets in someone's estate via a defined legal process. In terms of understanding what probate is, it is not complicated, but the implications of being involved directly in probate can be complex. Important note: probate, the distribution of the estate according to the will, also includes the distribution of the liabilities as well as the distribution of the assets. When somebody passes away, there is very likely going to be someone who is owed money, outstanding loans, mortgages, debts, payment plans, etc. The property tends to be the major asset within the estate, and generally it is the property itself that can so often be the liability. This may have an outstanding mortgage which needs paying up, or loans secured against the property which may need repaying. One of the problems of inheriting a property can be deciding what to do with it, and this can become difficult if there are a number of beneficiaries. These liabilities also need to be dealt with using the same legal framework as the distribution of the assets. Property in probate. The property within the estate can either be an asset or a liability, depending on what expenses are attached to it. There are other considerations worth bearing in mind if you do inherit, either in full or in part, a property. Consideration number 1. Consider how far away the property is from where you live. Is it practical to keep the property if it is some distance away? Consideration number 2. What will you do with the property if you do choose to keep it? Will you move there yourself or put a tenant in it, etc.? Consideration number 3. Consider what changes may need to be made to the property. Is it dated? Does the room layout suit what people are generally looking for in a home today? Does it need a refurbishment? Do you have the resources, the time and the money, for example, to take on the refurbishment? Consideration number 4. Is council tax due on the property? Insurance on the property can sometimes be a big issue. Any property that is empty for more than 60 days, depending on the insurer, becomes problematic. Is the insurer happy to keep on with the policy? These are things you will need to find out. Around 500,000 new probates are processed each and every year in the UK, which builds up a large backlog of empty properties that are sitting vacant or unsold. There is no time limit on how long the probate process itself can last. It typically ranges from 6 to 18 months, but can be anything up to 10 or 20 years, and in extreme cases even longer. Whilst it's a difficult time to make decisions, it is important to decide what you want to do with the assets distributed to you. In summary, we've covered what probate is, the testing of the will, and the distribution of the assets and liabilities within the estate. We have looked at some key definitions in the probate process, which we will cover in later videos. We have seen some of the types of assets and liabilities that can be distributed and briefly touched on the legal framework surrounding that. We have taken a look at the biggest asset or liability to be distributed within the estate, a property. We have been asked some key questions when it comes to dealing with a property that is in the probate process. Next time. In our next video, we will cover who is involved within the probate process. issues surrounding inheritance tax, the process needed to be given the grant of probate, the legal and personal responsibilities of the executor, and the importance of being the executor to an estate. Why the main asset within the estate, the property, can be sold to help alleviate the problems associated with payments, bills and taxes. Please join us in the next video.